you make your brain, your mind work in a way, you are likely to remember things better in the long term. Okay? And this is off the cuff. Just make your brain work and try to remember just what you know. And so this is the best way for me to remember words, grammar, paths, and so on.
In this episode, my Fluent podcast interviewed a very passionate English learner called Roberto from Italy, who invented a game called Off the Cuff, which means something like without preparation. And to be quite honest with you, I didn't know this expression before. So this was a nice side effect. I could learn vocabulary by producing this podcast. And quite honest, I was that fascinated by this game, while it's more the way Roberto played it. Because basically it's about speaking about a random topic off the cuff without preparation. And I watched these videos and it seemed to me that he is quite an expert in it. I mean, without having any preparation, you just start out a speech and you just go on and you know that people will watch that video then. Where were we? Well, yes, I was that fascinated by the way he played off the cuff that I took the courage and contacted him, Roberto, and wanted to know more about the game and his intentions, or why did he start out with that. And in this episode, I'm gonna show you some excerpts from this interview. So, without any further ado, let's have a listen to Roberto.
I think that speaking is the most important thing in the learning process. You know that children at the age of 6 can't even read, but they're able to speak, no? Okay, it's the same. The same goes for a non-native speaker, I think, no? You can study and read and in parallel, but at the same time, you need to speak, obviously. So you are on the best path from this point of view.
And I was wondering, how did you came across this game or this idea? Was it your idea, or what was the reason why you started out with this?
I came up with this idea roughly 7 months ago, because you know what off the cuff means. On the spur of the moment, okay, without preparing anything, because I realized that when I study and then repeat what I had studied, it's kind of preparing an exam. So you have a lot of short-term memory, but you are likely to forget in the long period, in the long term, what you had previously studied, no? But if you make your brain, your mind work in a way, you are likely to remember things better in the long term, okay? And this is off the cuff. Just make your brain work and try to remember what you know. Of course, in parallel, alongside, you can keep practicing by studying, okay? Vocabulary, grammar, and so on, reading, studying, whatever things, okay? But you really have to speak and make your brain works from this point of view. If you want to remember straight away at once, okay? Like people do in their normal lives, no? I'm not talking about a foreign language. In your mother tongue, in your native language, you remember things automatically. You don't need to think over things, okay? And so this is the best way for me to remember words, grammar, paths, okay, and so on.
So I guess you could improve drastically after 7 months of practicing with off the cuff.
Of course, because my wife is American, but she's been living here in Italy for 22 years. So she's almost half Italian. No, she speaks wonderful Italian. So we don't need to use English to communicate between each other. But needless to say, I've been to the United States 22 times. And every time I'm over there, I freeze. I freeze because somewhat the fact that I have studied so much English because I have a certificate in advanced English, but all this stuff prevents me from speaking freely. Okay. So no matter if you make a small mistake while speaking, but you feel embarrassed. And so by playing off the cuff 7 months ago, I took the courage to speak, and I think that my fluency had a great advantage from it because I can speak freely. This is the aim of the cuff of this game. Okay, and I started with a game called Random Topics. Okay, topics generated randomly, and then I added some other games. Okay, and a couple of games have been provided by our friends from the chat box. Okay, another 2 games. It's a kind of a universe. You just have to make your brain work. Okay, and that's it. There are 76 topics in the game, and I have already talked about 38 of them, but there are also other games. Okay, there's a random translation. For instance, you read a book written, in my case, in Italian, but you need to translate it into English. There are other games called random rewording or rephrasing. There's a slight subtle difference between rewording and rephrasing, because by rephrasing, I mean you mean to make it better, okay, but rewording means that you just use different words and grammar patterns, to interpret the page that you're reading, in this case in English. There is random pictures. You need to describe pictures, and so it's very good for your visual vocabulary, because you can get out a lot of words, okay, that usually don't belong to the academic environment, They are kind of practical English, but also, since these pictures are really weird, you can use your humor to describe this picture. You can make up a story, okay, invent. It's very good for your personalities. If you are shy, for instance, it's a good way to get over your shyness from this point of view. And there are other games as well. And this is important for me to get over my shyness, because these videos are probably seen by native speakers and a lot of people. Now I'm not embarrassed of my mistakes. Now I make very few mistakes. I'm honest, very few. At the beginning, I made many mistakes.
Yeah, I saw. Process, I saw that you have corrected yourself sometimes.
Yes.
You wrote the mistakes that you have.
Exactly.
Made. And I guess that way you could improve as well. After you have recorded yourself, maybe you did some researches, consulting dictionaries, and then you could remember it better.
Yes. I played back the video, especially because I also keep track of the words I use. Okay, because I want to get the gist of all the words I use by playing these games. And by playing the videos back, I realized my mistake, okay? Because as I was telling you before, I studied English, so I have a certificate in advanced English, so I can easily spot my mistakes afterwards, not in real time, obviously. Yeah.
That's really a great approach, a great
Thank
game.
you.
And you have all my respect, because it takes courage in a way to
Thank you,
just
Daniel.
record yourself and then to publish it, because there are a lot of people who are watching. In my opinion, the Facebook group, the Chatterbox, is really a good group, because you get a lot of positive feedback, and
Yes.
that brings you also positive thinking in a way. Because I myself, for example, I am shy, and I don't like to publish something, because I am always afraid of the negative feedback. I don't know where that comes from, but I guess it's from the school time.
Yeah, I understand. I understand what you mean, and I'm going to tell you that many times I have experienced that in the United States, because I need to feel at home. I need to feel comfortable. So when there are people kind of taunting me, I mean, it's kind of they make fun of me, of my mistakes, of my accent. So I found these people in the United States sometimes, and so I'm too shy, and so I freeze. I no longer speak. But in the chat box, I found a group of friends more than anything else. So I feel comfortable, and I'm not embarrassed if every once in a while I make a mistake. But I'm going to tell you that most of the time they're not relevant mistakes. You get a preposition wrong, you mispronounce a word sometimes. So this kind of errors that, from my point of view, are perfectly normal, because we are not native speaker and we need to improve a lot. But we are showing that we can communicate easily. And so I think by using a good spoken grammar as well. So you don't be shy, and you just have to realize that in the chat box there's a group of friends, and the feedbacks are most of the times are positive, and there are a lot of people encouraging you to make progress. Okay, so you just have to feel at home. This is what I found, the ideal environment, a group of friends. Okay, virtual friends, but they're friends. I think even an absolute beginner can play these games, because you improve little by little. So you need to have a starting point. No, you just start by using what you know, because I myself use what I know. No, it's off the cuff. Nothing is prepared. And little by little, step by step, you make progress. But it's important to start, okay, in a way.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Daniel. See you.
Bye.
Bye.
You were listening to Roberto from Italy, and you're listening to my Fluent podcast. Learn from and with a language learner. So for me, the most important things here were that in order to learn to improve your speaking, you need to be in your comfort zone. Let me rephrase this. You need to feel comfortable. If you are in an environment which makes you freeze, then you are not going to improve. And as Roberto mentioned, he already took the certificate, the advanced certificate. For some people, including me, well, I don't have an advanced certificate, but a first certificate. But it's just not enough for us, because we don't have enough practice. So you could basically start out today by thinking of different topics. That could be any topic, but you could choose topics which are related to you in some ways. Let's say if you like listening to podcasts, One topic, it could be podcasts, or it could be football, or music, whatsoever. The thing is that you just start out, you roll a dice, and then you talk about that topic, and then you can send the file to your language buddies. And by doing this on a regular basis, chances are that you are going to improve, and of course you're going to gain more confidence. Anyways, I can't thank Roberto enough for this, because it's not self-evident that people share their knowledge. I'm really thankful for that. And I will say, I'm gonna write a blog post as well about the game Off the Cuff, in which I will show you different pictures so that you can envision the idea even better. For that, you may go to myfluentpodcast.com. Thank you for listening to my Fluent podcast, and Off the Cuff is not finished yet. I must say that I played the game and I will play it again, and I will share my experience with you on one of the next episodes. Until then, bye! Thank you very much.
Thanks to you.
Oh, what was that?
There's that thunder because it's raining hard today. Yes.
Oh.
Everything was trembling. Yes.
Yeah, okay.